Welcome to New York Got Game.
Welcome back to another edition of New York Got Game, the best show covering New York basketball to the fullest. It's been a good stretch for the Liberty, who won their third straight game on Sunday. They are in great position to lock up the #1 seed in the WNBA playoffs. And they have 5 games left to play in the season, so we're going to see if they're able to hold on to that top spot. So this week, we're going to do things a little bit different on the show. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it.
The Knicks are heating up.
So for every New York Got Game episode, in almost a year since that we've been doing this show, we've had a different guest or two on to talk about a specific subject. But this week, I wanted to do something just a bit different, something that we hadn't done before. So for this episode, instead of me asking the questions, we have a group of journalists, content creators, and fans around the Knicks, Liberty, and Nets asking me their burning questions, aka the questions that they really want answers to about each of the teams. So it's nice for a change, for me to be on the other side, be the interviewee and not the interviewer. So here's how we're going to do this. We've got multiple video question submissions for each team, and we're going to watch the questions together, and then I'm going to share my thoughts. First, we are going to start with the New York Knicks. So to tip things off with the New York Knicks, we've got a question from my guy. He is the dean of Knicks Film School. His name is Jonathan Macri. J-Mac, what's good? What you got?
Hey there, Dex. It's your boy Jonathan Macri from Knicks Film School. I have a burning question about my beloved Knickerbockers. So obviously, they were not a very good basketball team for the better part of 20 years. And that all changed 4 seasons ago when Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau, and their whole team arrived to start the turnaround of the franchise. Things have gotten even better over the last 2 years after the arrival of Jalen Brunson, and now the franchise seemingly has put themselves in a position to go even further than they have before. My question to you is, what constitutes a successful season for this club this year? Is there any world where they could make it as far as they've made it the last 2 years and win a playoff round and then get eliminated and we're not all disappointed? Do they need to make it to at least the conference finals, and would that be good enough? Or, in your opinion, is this an NBA finals or bust season so soon after the franchise has made this all-in commitment to this team? Looking forward to hearing your answer, and of course looking forward to another great year of New York hoops.
All right, that's my guy, J-Mac. And I love that we're at this point with the Knicks, right, where this is the question we're asking. What is success? Last couple of years, as you heard from J-Mac, it's been a fantastic ride seeing what the Knicks can do with Tom Thibodeau. And now they're at the point where the big question is, are they contenders? Are they not contenders? And look, I think the Knicks are absolutely contenders. I think they could get to an NBA Finals. I'm not saying they definitely would, but I'm saying that they could. So for me, J-Mac, I think that success is at least, folks, making the conference finals and then playing in a competitive series. And the reason I say that is because we've seen the Knickerbockers reach the second round of the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. And obviously last year, they were just worn out, they were injured, and it was a heartbreaking loss in 7 games to the Pacers. This year, you want to take the next step. You've got the wings in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. The team has a lot of chemistry. They're coming together. There's some questions about the 5 spot and the backup 5 spot with Isaiah Hartenstein gone. But I think this team can make it to the conference finals. I think they can challenge Boston. You got to put respect on Philadelphia's name. You also have to think about Milwaukee. But this is a really good Knicks team. Knicks fans should be excited. And so, yeah, a successful season to me is taking that next step, getting to the conference finals. And we'll see if the Knicks can do that. Okay, next up, what I'm hearing about the Knicks, we've got a question from 2 of my favorite people. These are 2 of my favorite people. I'm so glad that they had a submission here. When it comes to hosting Knicks events, you know them. It's Jennifer and Jasmine Gordon of Knicks OmniFan. Ladies, what's going on?
Hey Dex, Jen and Jazz from OmniFan here. Considering the entire Knicks roster and Coach Thibodeau's coaching style, which of the rookies do you think has the potential to have the most significant impact on the team this season? Right, will they mostly be relegated to the bench, as they usually are, or do any of them have the potential to be a breakout star, given the opportunity? We want to know.
Yeah, when it comes to rookies, everybody wants to know. And I love that there, right? We have no idea what's going to happen with Coach Thibs. there's always that stigma out there that he's not going to play the young players, which I've always felt is just a little bit overblown, right? But to answer this question, it's going to be tough if you're a rookie to crack this rotation. The Knicks have so much depth right now. But if I was going to talk about a rookie to crack this rotation and a guy that I was very impressed with seeing out at Summer League, that's Tyler Kolek. And the Knicks were able to snag him in the second round. He's a fantastic point guard, played extremely well in Summer League, could run a team. Now, it's going to be hard for him because Cam Payne is the third point guard on this roster, at least the way it shakes up right now. But here's the thing. You never know. Injuries can happen. There could be an opportunity for Kolek to step up. He had plenty of experience in college. So if I had to bank on one of the Knicks rookies being able to crack this rotation and get minutes, I think it could be him. We saw this a couple years ago with Emmanuel Quickley. Nobody thought that he would get major minutes. He really impressed in training camp. And then he got an opportunity and he ran with it. I'll also mention one other person, ladies, and that's Ariel Hukporti. I liked what I saw from him also in Summer League. And here's the reason I mention his name. We know about the Knicks' issues now with Isaiah Hartenstein leaving and the fact that they will need some help at the 5 spot. Well, one of the things I liked about Hukporti, which is a little bit similar to Isaiah Hartenstein, is he's got the ability to pass the ball. And I think the Knicks need another center like that can be a good passer and that can help them well. So keep your eye on Hukporti. I would say it's likely that he starts the season playing for the Westchester Knicks, not up with the big team, but he's a guy to keep an eye on and watch him develop. But Tyler Kolek, I think he probably has the best shot in terms of, at some point this season, maybe cracking the Knicks rotation. Okay, next up, got another Knicks contributor, my guy, Lee Escobedo from the Nick of Time show. Lee, what you got?
Double blessings, Dexter. Lee Escobedo here from Nick of Time podcast. Got a burning question for you about the backup 5 position. I've sold all my stock in Jericho Sims. I don't have much faith he's going to improve the way we need defensively, and I love Precious Achiuwa. He's a dog, but his size and length at the 5 worry me. I feel like there's some targets that have been rumored, like Walker Kessler, Jalen Duren. Not totally sure about how we can trade for them or for complications. My eye is in Washington with the Wizards' Jonas Valancas, who just signed a 3-year, $30 million deal, and it's been reported that Tyus Jones, the former free agent, was offered a deal with the intent to be traded before the deadline. I think that same promise could have been made to Jonas, with his option to be traded to a contender before February's deadline deal. Now, the Knicks have the assets to get him. Precious Achiuwa, a couple other assets, maybe that Washington pick we own, give them back full control of that. Bring in Jonas, who is a worry on defense and rim protection, but brings a ton on offense. He's in a high percentile in the short roll, in the mid-range, and around the rim. He's also an elite offensive rebounder and a very good passer in the high post. So he can replicate some of that same contrast and complement that Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein had with Jonas Valancas coming off the bench and then starting when Mitchell Robinson eventually does get injured this season and has us be out for a while. I think Jonas can come in and bring playoff experience with all 3 teams he's been on, Memphis, Toronto, and New Orleans, as well as toughness and, most importantly, size and skill at the 5 position as someone who needs to be guarded on the other end of the ball and can complement the other pieces on this team that can defend the perimeter and not to funnel everything to the 5 position and drop coverage. I think Jonas would be a solid piece. What have you heard about it? What do you think? And as always, double blessings, brother.
Appreciate you, Lee. I haven't heard much about Jonas Valancas, but I do think he's a name that's absolutely going to be out there. You mentioned it. The contract is very friendly and tradable that he signed with the Wizards. My concern is a little bit of some of the stuff you brought up. I love the offensive fit. He can do some of the stuff offensively that we saw from Isaiah Hartenstein, but I have concerns about him defensively. The thing you got from iHeart, which also complemented Mitchell Robinson so well, was the rim protection and the rebounding. And he's a good offensive rebounder. I worry a little bit about the rim protection and the foot speed. But the guy I really like that I think the Knicks can go after is Nick Richards from Charlotte. I think he's obtainable. He's low cost. He averaged 9.7 points, 8 rebounds a game, and just over 26 minutes per game last season. So really efficient. He can get better on the defensive end. But I think the other thing when it comes for me when you're looking at the Knicks in terms of adding a center is how does that help with the team trying to keep their flexibility as they go forward. So Jonas Valancas, who's not making that much money, I see where you're going. I like that there. I wouldn't be mad if they got him. But I think the Knicks may look for somebody that can give them just a little bit more in terms of rim protection, maybe also on the younger side. Nick Richards is 26. He's in his mid-20s, right in his prime. Maybe they look somebody there in that mold. So, yeah, I like Nick Richards. Wouldn't be mad if they got Jonas Valancas, but we'll see what the Knicks do with the backup 5 situation. I think it's going to be a wait-and-see situation. I think they're going to want to see how things play out. Can Precious Achiuwa step in that role? Does Jericho Sims, who we didn't even mention, does he develop more into that role? It's going to be a wait and see. All right, great questions on the New York Knickerbockers.
The Knicks are heating up.
Okay, we go from the Knicks to some Nets questions where I don't expect the mood of these questions to be quite as exciting as the ones that we heard from the Knicks. Knicks fans really optimistic right now. Okay, but first up, we've got a question from what I think is one of the best young writers covering the Nets. His name is Lucas Kaplan of Nets Daily. Lucas, what's the good word?
Hey, what's going on, Dex? You got your number retired in the rafters of netsdaily.com, so I have to ask you about the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not really interested in the short term. What vets are they going to trade to what team for which picks, right? More about the long-term direction of this franchise, of the rebuild as we enter year one. There's reports from writers like Brian Lewis, guys that know their stuff, that Brooklyn could be a free agency player in 2025. They could have a lot of money to throw around. Guys like Jimmy Butler are going to hit the market. So I'm just really wondering, what does the ownership and front office, what do those groups want to see out of the team on the court in 2024-25? What would make them feel comfortable in taking that next step, no matter what draft pick they get? Let's say they get number 1 and a shot at Cooper Flagg. We still need to know what they want to see out of Jordy Fernandez in year 1, who the core even is, and what developments they want to see out of those core guys. I want to find out more about their standards, their barometer for success in year 1, and what would make them feel comfortable going forward. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Lucas, appreciate you, and Lucas knows me going way back to when I did work for Nets Daily. He's right, my jersey's up there in the rafters. But no, it's a good question, Lucas, about the Nets, because I always think that in the first year, right, with a new head coach in Jordy Fernandez, you want to establish a standard, an identity. And I think that's the first thing you're going to want to see with this Nets team that I think the front office is going to want to look at with Jordy Fernandez, right? And then you mentioned another point, Lucas, about, okay, what are they going to do? How are they going to figure out who's part of this core going forward? And I think that's the most important thing. And I'm glad you're not focusing on the short term in the fact that, okay, yeah, maybe they'll try to trade Dorian Finney-Smith. Maybe they'll also try to trade Cameron Johnson. Those are players you could see moved. What do they do with Ben Simmons and his expiring $40 million contract? All of that will be there. I hear you on that. But in terms of young players, I think you want to see some development. The Nets are not expected to be a good team, as you know, but I think two of the players you really want to look at is Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton. Let's start with Cam Thomas first, because he's a walking bucket. We all know that he can score the basketball. Averaged over 22.5 points per game last year on 44% shooting. And he shot over 36% from downtown. So one of the things I like is the shot selection got a little bit better. We saw this with Cam Thomas where he could be a little bit wild with the shot selection. That got better. More volume, took more shots. I still think he can improve on that end. But the big thing for Cam Thomas, in my eyes, is can he improve on the defensive end? And sometimes you get concerned about young players playing on bad teams where they're just expected to score, right? We call that empty calorie stats sometimes. You wonder if Cam Thomas is that player. So can he show you the things that makes it look like he is a winning player? And that's doing the little things, the intangibles, playing defense. He's going to be looked at to be sort of a leader, not really a vet, but can he then lead by example? So is there growth for Cam Thomas in that department? And then Nick Claxton is another person. He just got his bag, re-signed with the Nets this offseason, just missed averaging a double-double last year, averaged 11.8 points, 9.9 boards. So we know Nick Claxton is one of the best young centers in the league. He can even get better defensively. I think he can go to another level. I think it's watching these players play harder on the defensive end because they're not going to be in some games. I think this team can get stripped down even more. And how do they react to some of the losing? So what I'm looking for if I'm Knicks management, those are two of your young core guys, particularly Cam Thomas, who wants to get paid. How do those guys develop and evolve their game this year, even despite some of the changes that might go on around them on this roster, which could look very different as it would in March than it does right now. So we'll see. But those are my two guys, Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, watching how they develop. All right, moving along. We've got a question from Nets superfan, fellow Brooklynite, my guy, Doug Barrett. Doug is always, from what I've known, pretty positive Nets fan. So I'm a bit intrigued as to what he's got to ask here because he's a pretty positive guy. Doug, what you got?
What's up, Dex? Hope you're doing well, brother. Thank you for allowing me to ask my question about one of my favorite teams, the Brooklyn Nets. Now, as you may know, fans are apparently aligned on the direction of the team, which doesn't happen too often. So it appears we're going to be tanking, working for the longevity of our franchise, and it's going to take a toll on everyone. So how do you think the fans will be able to keep afloat in this unique situation? As you know, there's different types of tanking. We've seen trust the process all the way to OKC. So where do you think the Nets will fall in that? And how do you think, they'll be able to manage this? Because attendance may change, fandom might change, but one thing's for certain, it's BK all day. So, brother, being from Brooklyn, how do you think the franchise will be able to handle this, both from a fan perspective and also a local sports fan? Thanks so much, brother, and hopefully this is a time when the Nets invest in a mascot. Hopefully a bodega cat. Peace out, brother.
Yeah, that's my guy, Doug. He's been hoping for a Nets mascot since Brooklyn Knight left the Nets. And look, you see, I told you guys, positivity from Doug. He's out there saying BK all day. Okay, what do the Nets fans have to do? How do they handle this? Look, hope and pray. It's a little bit of what I'm going to say here. I think that's some of what they have to do. But I think Nets fans like yourself, Doug, have to understand the bigger picture here, right? And the Nets chose a direction, which I think was the right thing for them to do this offseason, and that's sort of tearing this team down and trying to build it back up. I think that was the right move. But attendance is going to sway. Let's just keep it real. It is not a great product out there in terms of men's basketball at the Barclays Center. So I think fans have to look at some of the stuff I talked about in the previous question that we heard from Lucas, right? You have to look for the small things. Which players are developing? Who can you get excited about? What's part of this culture? I don't expect the Nets fans to show up in full force like we saw during the very short-lived KD, Kyrie, and James Harden era. But I do think Nets fans should be happy in the fact that their team has chosen a direction. Now, I do think that can shift further depending on what happens after the season. They should have a ton of cap space. Depends on who they can get in the draft that is expected to be loaded. I think those expectations can change, and then you might have some excitement. But I think the excitement can come back again if there's a reason to be excited in the court. And look, I always support fans with this. If there's not a reason to be excited about the product in the court, fans are not going to show up. But I think if there are some reasons where Cam Thomas maybe is playing well, you see this young core starting to buy into the way Jordy Fernandez wants them to play, and they're playing hard, and it's a product that the fans can get behind, I think that can happen. Also, Doug, we got to shout out your dog in the background because he or she was in full Nets gear. So that's part of the positivity. I like how that was looking. So there we go. Moving on. I've learned that we've got a question from somebody who recently made an appearance on the show. His name is Mike Biseglia of the Bad Weather Fans podcast. And Mike is a big-time Nets fan. He does a podcast with a Knicks fan. But Mike has got a question, and I'm very intrigued to hear what Mike has to say. What you got, Mike?
Hey, what's up, Dex? This is Mike Biseglia of Bad Weather Fans. Let's talk about the net burning questions. I know about the lottery. Will they win the lottery? Will they draft Cooper Flagg? All that's kind of down the line because the season has to develop. But in the immediate, in the right now, let's talk about two young players for the Nets and will they see strides this year. Number one, Cam Thomas. Yes, we know he can score. Yes, we know he's a volume scorer. But what's he like with the keys to the car? What's he like now for the Nets having control of the organization in the immediate? Loved what I saw from him, by the way, in that second to last game or whatever it was versus the Knicks when he shoved Jalen Brunson and he got all upset. At least he cared about the Nets, unlike some other former players. Also, Noah Clowney. Great development from him late in the season, hitting threes, getting to the basket. We saw that he can rebound. Great in that defensive scheme with Nick Claxton. What is Noah Clowney like for the Nets now that he's going to get some viable minutes? So 2 young players from the Nets I'm just dying to see this year. Cam Thomas, can he lead this organization? Is he a part of the team for the long term? And then Noah Clowney. What does he bring? He's 19, 20 years old. What are we going to get from Noah Clowney and Cam Thomas? And then, I know I said in the beginning, they got to win the lottery. That Cooper Flag thing would be kind of cool.
Cooper Flag would be kind of cool in Brooklyn. That definitely would be cool there. But no, I think these are good questions and good players that you're focused on. I mentioned Nick Claxton earlier. Obviously, I talked about Cam Thomas and Noah Clowney. Now, with Cam Thomas, who you mentioned, I do think there is some concern in terms of how he could handle, as you said, now having the keys to the car. What is it going to be like where you're expected to be the man to score every night? I think the thing you have to watch for him, as I mentioned before, efficiency. Saw some strides in that. Can the three-point percentage increase on high volume? And even if it's not as good as it was last year, where he shot over 36% from downtown, can he just have better shot selection? That's good. And then, like I said before, it's the defensive end for me with Cam Thomas. Now, with Noah Clowney, here's the thing that I like. I like the size. I love the versatility for the 2023 draft picks. Got a lot of potentials, got some good instincts. What I want to see from him, though, is the confidence shooting the ball from the outside. Now, the percentage wasn't bad, a little bit above league average, shot 36.4% from three in just about an attempt per game. So that's not a lot of volume there. Can he replicate that on increased volume to keep defenses honest? Because right now, they're going to give him that shot. They're going to say, hey, you really don't want to put it up from out there, but he's got the range, he's got the size, 6'9", really nice rangy forward. He seems like he could stroke it pretty well from outside. It's just, can we see him do that on more volume? So I love that you brought up Noah Clowney. He's going to get minutes. He's going to get a chance to play. We will see how Jordi Fernandez feels about him. So I think he's really a player to keep your eye on in training camp and as they go forward into the season. So Cam Thomas, Noah Clowney, love your questions there, Mike, about it. But, I know you want to see the Nets beat the Knicks, and I don't know. That might not happen that often this season. We'll see how that goes. Okay, lastly, we've got to talk about the New York basketball team that's actually playing basketball right now. They have the best record in the WNBA. That would be the New York Liberty. And I had to hear from my friend Dawn, who is a Liberty superfan. Always great seeing her at the Barclays Center. Saw her the other night when the Liberty took on the Seattle Storm. Dawn, what's going on? What you got?
Hey Dex, it's Dawn here. I have a two-parter for you. First, what are the important measures the Liberty need to take to sew up the championship this season? And second, how do you feel about the rising ticket prices for season ticket holders for the upcoming season? Thank you.
Appreciate you as always, Dawn. Let me take the second part of that first, because that's something that's been coming up a lot lately, and fans have been talking to me about it, and I've been hearing them asking about what's going on. And just to break it down for people, ticket prices for the Liberty have started to increase as the team has become more and more popular. The W has become more and more popular. And I think for some fans, there's a little bit of sadness. And somebody might say, well, Dex, why is that? Why is there sadness around that? More people are coming to the games. That's really good. That's dope. That's a good thing. But then the prices aren't the same. And there was an accessibility factor to that, right? I remember a couple of years ago, took my daughter to see a Liberty game, and it was really great seats for like $30. Even last year, I was able to get some really good seats for some pretty affordable prices. This year, I've been to a couple of games and paid for some tickets and want to get some good seats. And I will say, yes, I'm fortunate to be able to get some good seats, but the prices are a lot more expensive. And I think this is the dilemma that comes with any sport, right? Where there is somewhat of a change in how people view it. Before, there was a stigma around the WNBA. I think in recent years that isn't always true, that nobody wants to watch or nobody wants to come. And there has clearly been an increase in uptick in the game, particularly in the last 5 years. But with that, as I mentioned before, comes more of a demand. However, the W has long talked, and the Liberty, not just the W as well, talked about making things more accessible to fans. And so I do think with everything, there's a tipping point, particularly with prices. And it's where is that going to be for the Liberty? Where does it get to be too much where you're pushing out the fan that just might be able to afford the game and want to bring their sons or their daughters to see the Liberty play where it becomes too much and actually get some good seats? It's a tough and delicate balance. What I do suggest and what I do think there is a power in the fans, and I always like to say this, fans can make their voice heard. They can talk to Liberty management and the ownership and Joe Tsai, who's done a good job in engaging with fans on both the Nets and the Liberty side. So I think make some of those concerns heard, and I think that can go a long way. I personally, as somebody who covers the team and also goes and attends games, I hope this doesn't deter people from being able to go to the games, because one of the beautiful things about the Liberty games were the prices, and that people can go and see, and you could pay a little bit less than you would to go to an NBA game. We know what the prices are at the Garden and how hard it is to see the Knicks and have really good seats. I think that's something really great about the Liberty, that it has been accessible for so long, and I really hope that doesn't go away. The first part of your question, Dawn, where you asked me about what's it really going to take for the Liberty to get to the mountaintop and win a championship, I think it's togetherness. I think it's leaning in on their depth. I think it's the confidence they've built. I really think this team has a lot of confidence from losing and getting to the W finals last year. They lost in 4 games, but I really think it's them sticking together, having the belief that they've shown throughout this season where they have the best record in the W. It looks like they're going to lock up the #1 seed. I think it's that confidence, belief, and trusting the depth, the plan, the way they play. If they do that, yeah, I think they can absolutely reach the mountaintop. And the questions from Liberty fans don't stop there. My Eastern Caribbean brother, Swanee, he is checking in from the West Coast. Trinidad is in the house. What's up, Swanee?
Dex, my guy. Hey, sending greetings from Sunnyside, California to my Caribbean brother. I just want to say, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you as always, man, for always reaching out and reaching back to the little guys, us who's just trying to make some content out there. We really, really appreciate you. I got 2 quick questions for you in regards to Liberty basketball for this upcoming postseason. One, what do you think is the Liberty's ceiling for this upcoming postseason? Where do you think we're going to land? Who do you think we're going to be going up against? And then secondly, who do you think is going to be the X factor, the person that makes the biggest difference for the Liberty this upcoming postseason? I would love to hear your thoughts, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Swanee. Appreciate you checking in there. The Liberty, in terms of their ceiling, look, they've been dominating the league thus far this year. At the time of us recording this, 29-6. They've got 5 games left to go in the season. The ceiling for them is they can win it all. I absolutely think they can win it all. I think they can absolutely win the championship. The team has been striving for this for quite some time. They are one of the original franchises. They have not won a WNBA title. So for me, that is the ceiling for the Liberty. Now, the X factor, I would just pick one, but I'm going to give you 2 here. First X factor for me, head coach, Sandy Brondello. She is a major X factor. And some people may say, hey, why are you bringing up the coach, who's done a tremendous job this year, I want to say. But I think one of the things Sandy has learned this year is that she's relying more on her depth. And I think how she utilizes her lineup and the depth that she has this year as opposed to last year in the playoffs is going to be key. I really have loved what she's done in the regular season in terms of rotating the minutes, in terms of relying on the depth that she has. I think it's a strength of the Liberty. So I think how she manages these minutes in the postseason is going to be huge for this team. The other X factor for me, and it's unfortunate as we're bringing this up and recording, she just got injured. That is Benijah Laney Hamilton. I think she is the glue of this team. She is a fantastic 2-way player. She does it all for the Liberty on defense, offense, and knocking down the outside shot, really aggressive. No update on her injury right now. Obviously, she got hurt in the game against the Aces on the same knee that she had surgery on earlier this season. But Benijah Laney Hamilton, who's a player I absolutely love to watch on this Liberty squad because of just how much effort she gives on both ends of the floor, particularly on defense. She really helps set the tone. I think she's the X factor. I think also the reason I say she's the X factor, when you play her and you play Kayla Thornton and you can add Leonie Fibic and some of the size they have, they're allowed to close these games and play so much bigger. It's really because of what Betnijah Laney could do and how much versatility she has, in the starting lineup. So this is something that I love to see. And Betnijah, I think we all hope that she's fine and well and can play for the Liberty in the playoffs. But for me, Betnijah Laney Hamilton, she is one of the major X factors for the Liberty. Now, another person, a lot of my favorites were here sending in questions. Candace Pedraza, one of my favorite writers covering the Liberty. Also, one of my favorite people to talk hoops with. She's got a burning question about the team. Ace, what's going on?
Hey Dexter, thank you for taking these questions on the Liberty. My question for you was going to be about Kayla Thornton. I think the bench unit for this New York Liberty team is what's going to make a huge difference for them in their longevity in this postseason. It was something that General Manager Jonathan Kolb was really focused on building up after last year's exit in the finals, just with the Aces' depth compared to the Liberties, and I think Kayla Thornton is a huge part of that. And I was just curious about your thoughts on how you feel like she is going to be most impactful in the postseason. Her defense speaks for itself, but her offense has taken a little bit of a dip since Courtney Vandersloot has returned into the starting lineup. So I was just curious your thoughts on whether or not she needs to even be impactful on offense to the same degree that she was being when she was starting for the Liberty, or if you feel like just the defense is enough in order to win the Liberty postseason series and also win them potentially a championship come late September and late October. And that was pretty much it. Just curious your thoughts on Kayla Thornton's impact, and thank you so much again.
All right, anytime, Ace. No, KT has been tremendous for the Liberty this season. There's no doubt about how good she has been for this team, shooting over 36% from downtown. And you mentioned it there, Ace. Her shooting, particularly her offense, has taken a bit of a dip recently. And she was playing well when she was in the starting lineup. But I think this question, honestly, is so timely right now with what I just mentioned about Betnijah Laney Hamilton. You're going to need her offense again, and KT's a really tremendous two-way player. She's been good when starting. She's also been pretty solid off the bench. So the Liberty are going to absolutely need her offense, especially if Betnijah Laney Hamilton is out. But I think one of the key things with her is she's really one of the glue ladies off the bench on this roster, and she's got to continue to do that. One of the things that she's done so well this season is she's helped to provide spacing with her shooting, and particularly knocking down that corner three. That's something I think you can continue to see from her, but I think especially with B potentially being out, we do not know how long, I think it's going to be so important for her to still keep that defensive intensity and set the tone, because I think it would be very likely that she would step up into the starting lineup to replace Betnijah Laney Hamilton. So once she's there, you're going to need to replace the defense that you have from Betnijah Laney Hamilton, which KT is absolutely capable of doing. But then I think just to keep teams honest when they try to load up, whether it's on Breanna Stewart, whether it's on Sabrina Ionescu, she's going to have to knock down the open shot and be solid offensively. We've seen her do it multiple times this season. She had a really good game in the Commissioner's Cup against the Minnesota Lynx, where she shot the ball extremely well against a very good defensive team. So I expect KT to step up, and I think her impact is huge just for this reason. Now the Liberty are potentially dealing with an injury to Betnijah Laney Hamilton. She becomes even more valuable. This is where that depth that we've been talking about with the Liberty is even more valuable. So KT, no doubt where her value is. I think she just has to stay confident, let it fly when she's open, and keep giving that intensity on the defensive end. All right, our last question is from one of the best voices around women's hoops. People anxiously await her WNBA power rankings. I have people hitting me up all the time saying, I don't agree with her ranking here. I like this here. I like this there. She's been a guest on the show. It's my Caribbean sister, Natalie Esquire of NBC Sports. Nat, what's going on?
Burning questions for me about the New York Liberty. Which matchup would the Liberty or their fans, or just in general, what would be the preferred first round matchup? Right now, you have the Chicago Sky and Dream, which are the most likely teams, one of those two, Or you also have the Mystics and the Wings with a very slim chance lingering. All of those 4 teams could potentially be the number 8 seed and a potential first-round matchup for the Liberty. So which one would the Liberty want? And secondly, what are the thoughts on the Liberty potentially facing the Aces in a finals rematch, but in the second round, in the semis? It's possible if the standings play out the way that they look.
All right, so it's playoff time. Like I said, 5 games left for the Liberty. Who are they going to play? Right now, it's looking like either Chicago Sky, could be the Atlanta Dream, like Nat just mentioned there. But I do think the best matchup for the Liberty is the Chicago Sky right now. Earlier in the season, if you had asked me this, I would have said, hey, this could be problematic. Camila Cardozo, Angel Reese, who's now out for the season with a fractured wrist. They have some size. They could give them some problems, even though they were a young team. But I think with one, Angel Reese being done for the season, and I also think with the fact that they traded away Marina Mabrey, ever since that happened, the team has sort of went off a cliff in a way. She kind of stabilized that team, and it was a huge loss once they traded away to get some assets for the future. So Chicago, I think, is a team that might, I hate to put it this way, they just might be happy to be there, and I think it's a pretty good and easy matchup for the Liberty. Now, you don't want to sleep on anybody in the W. I just want to be clear on that. You do not want to sleep on anybody, but I do think the Chicago Sky is a really good matchup for the Liberty here, and I think one they should be able to take care of easily in a first-round 3-game series and likely sweep there. Now, you asked me about Liberty and the Aces, who we just saw play on Sunday. The Liberty swept the season series against the Aces, playing in the semifinals. No, I don't like it. I don't like this at all. Don't want to see them in the semifinals. This is a matchup everybody wants to see. You want to see the rematch in the finals. But look, it's the way the seeding is right now. Liberty in the 1 spot, Aces in the 4 spot. They likely would see each other in the second round. No, I don't like it. It's not where I wanted to see it. But we like to see good basketball any place we can get it. I think it could be a tremendous series. I think the Liberty have a ton of confidence heading into the series if you think it matters that they swept them in the regular season. But the Aces, they're going to be prideful champions. And they've been trying to get things right for a while. They've won 4 out of their last 5 games. They have who I think will be absolutely the MVP of the league in Aisha Wilson. I think they're going to be a tough opponent for the Liberty if they see them in the second round. Yes, the Liberty beat them 3 times, swept the season series, but you know the Aces are not going to go down easy. They're back-to-back defending champions. They're trying to three-peat. They're hungry to do it. Could they get their stuff together? Maybe. I don't know. I would much rather have seen this in the W finals than seeing it in the second round, but it looks like that's what we're going to get. However, Liberty fans, you got to pump the brakes. You have to take it 1 game at a time. First thing first, you got to get to the playoffs, get there healthy, win your first round series, then you worry about what happens there. Yo, these are great questions by everybody. Thank you to everybody who submitted fantastic questions. We're going to have to do it again where we have some more burning questions from the fans, the journalists, the content creators. I think this is something we should probably keep doing. Good new wrinkle to the show. I liked it. All right, so the WNBA season rolls on this week for the Liberty. They have a home-and-home series with the Dallas Wings. Then what could be a big showdown to lock up the number 1 seed with the Minnesota Lynx next Sunday. Basketball never stops. Knicks and Nets training camp, they are right around the corner. So special thanks to all of my guests who submitted videos for this week's episode. For my editor, Catherine Cooper, producer Lee Insler, director Brianna Musindashiaka, I'm Dexter Henry. And we'll catch you next time on New York Got Game.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.